On live now.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Middletown Public Schools Curriculum Committee monthly meeting. We thank you for joining us. My name is Delita Rose Daniels. I'm on the Board of Education, and I am your new Curriculum Committee Chair. I would like to call the meeting to order. The time is 5:31. So we will get started with introductions, starting with Dr. Vasquez Matos.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Alberto Vasquez Matos, Acting Superintendent.
And anyone can jump in and go next. Our guest speaker, go ahead.
Andres
Presenter.
Alfonso, World Languages Department Chairperson.
All right. Our community member.
Hi, Sheila Daniels. I'm the community member for the Board of Education Curriculum Committee. Nice to see you all. Congratulations to the new chair and the new member.
Awesome. And our other guest here with us, Ms. Forbes.
Oh, yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Natalie Forbes, Director of Innovation and Grants. Thank you.
And our board members who are joining us.
Hello, Deborah Gus, new board member and committee member.
Madam Chair.
Deborah Kane, board chair.
All right, thank you so much for the introductions. I'd like to ask, did everyone have an opportunity to read the October meeting minutes? Did give a thumbs up. If you did not, that is okay. Does anyone have any recommended changes or amendments? If there are none, I'd like to motion to accept the October meeting minutes for the curriculum committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
So moved by Deborah. Thank you so much. So we have a very brief agenda for this month, but
Did you with your vote?
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I
Say
think you
that
just
again.
a second, just say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Any opposers? Being that there are none, the motion carries. So we will jump right into our agenda items. We have Mr. Andres Alfonso here, who will present on the seal of biliteracy. Pardon me, before we do, I'd like to introduce Dr. Vasquez Matos, who will give us an overview, and then we'll move into our presentation for the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Board Member Rose Daniels. So I kind of give you kind of the historical context of why we're presenting the seal of biliteracy. When I first came to Middletown, I started to have conversations with the Office of Teaching and Learning, department heads and supervisors. And Andres Alfonso, who is the World Language Department head, we were having conversations of the initiatives and programming and curriculum as it relates to world languages. And so one of the questions that I had for him is, do we have here in Middletown the seal of biliteracy? And then we had this conversation, no, that we don't have it. And so we started to do research as it relates to introducing the seal of biliteracy for our students graduating from Middletown High School. It is a state distinction that is part of their diploma and graduation, but really demonstrates a level of students being bilingual, biliterate, or even trilingual and triliterate. And so this is something that we would like to see happen this year. I know that Andres also had conversation with Ms. Forbes around how to be able to fund this so that our students can participate and this actually be as part of one of the graduation accolades, if you may, for our students. So with that said, I'm going to ask Mr. Alfonso to kind of share kind of an overview around the Seal of Biliteracy.
Thank you, Dr. Vasquez Matos. Mike, if I can share the screen, please.
You should be able to.
All right, thank you. So here we go. So the Seal of Biliteracy identifies students graduating with distinction for their language skills. It demonstrates that students are literate in more than one language, English and either a world language offered at MHS or the student's home language. So that would include students who are EL students in our district. Students receive a seal affixed to the diploma and will be identified on the graduation program as students that have met this standard. So we are working on designing a gold seal or emblem that will be affixed to their diploma, you know, when they meet this standard, when they meet when they complete what they need to complete. So earning the Seal of Biliteracy for students and the eligibility criteria is to attain the Seal of Biliteracy, students use of the language must be demonstrated rather than their knowledge about the language. Therefore, a student must demonstrate proficiency in English and another language by meeting the criteria described below, which is both native and non-native speakers of English must provide comparable evidence of language, English language proficiency. The language performance should be demonstrated in both social and academic use of the language in all modes of communication, and for world language or an ACTFL or American Council of Teaching of Foreign Languages, they identify the three modes of communication as the interpretive, the interpersonal, and the presentational modes. So the assessments that I'll be talking about emulate those modes of communication, and students are asked to perform versus just conjugate some verbs and you know, just remember, regurgitate. They're going to be performing in the target language. So earning the Seal of Biliteracy, students eligible to receive the Seal of Biliteracy, the two academic requirements are they must complete all English language arts requirements for graduation. Hence why we are identifying the class of 2022 or seniors as the first group that we would like to work with and as our pilot for this year. We would like to expand it and give students who are juniors also the opportunity to meet the standard for that second language, but their junior year. So by the time they get to the senior year, all they have to do is meet the graduation requirement for the ELA portion. Students must demonstrate proficiency in the language other than English. I'm sorry, there we go. Other than English in grade 12 at a level comparable to intermediate mid. And within the ACTFL standards, the skill level is spiraled. So from a level 1, you're at a beginning or novice low to mid. By the time you're in the second year of the language, you're novice mid to novice high. And by the time you're in the third to fourth year, you start spiraling into the intermediate low, intermediate mid. So the students who have completed, who are at either Spanish 4 or AP or French 4 and AP, and or are native speakers of another language that have only been here with us several years would be able to benefit from participating, because they'll be able to demonstrate through the guidelines that they meet the standard. They would be able to do that through some assessments, and the assessments, and this is just a sampling of the assessments. This is one of the things we're still trying to refine before we come back, and that's why I want to present tonight, but I want to come back in January with a much more firmed up plan. So students will be able to take the APEL assessment, or the oral proficiency, writing proficiency, or through ACTFL. They would also be able to take a AP class. So if they take an AP class and they receive a 3 or better a language class, they would be able to get the seal of biliteracy. The one caveat with the advanced placement courses, and it's something I spoke to Dr. V about, is that unfortunately the advanced placement classes for our seniors, their test results don't get to us till July. So we may want to offer them another assessment and as an alternative so they can meet that standard. But there are students with our new vertically aligned program who may at some point in the near future start to get to AP Spanish by the time they're juniors. So there's a lot of movement still. So for our pilot program, I just wanted to just give you some assessments that we are looking at. The appel and the stamp both also are available for languages that are not taught in world language classrooms in our district or nationally, but they do address languages that students speak at home, either Urdu, Bengal, Thai, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, Creole French. So they do have availability to be able to allow students to be able to test in that home language. I just based on the number of students who took Spanish 4, French 4 last year, who took AP as well last year's juniors, who are seniors this year, we have identified about 50 to 60 students who would meet the criteria to at least be invited to participate in our pilot program. Including in that number is 7 students who are EL, and I have the languages that they speak. So it's Bangla, Thai, and Creole French as examples of other languages that we would be able to assess using one of the 2 assessments. Now, that's where my slides end. There's a couple other pieces that I want to share. If we go with the appel or the stamp assessments, they're both, they're $20 per pupil. One of the concerns that we have is that, yes, there is an assessment at the end where the students can demonstrate their proficiency, but we also want to make sure that there's benchmarks or practice assessments that they can do as they get to the testing date, in order for them to really get the experience and practice to be able to demonstrate their proficiency and feel confident and comfortable that they'd be able to meet that standard. Ms. Forbes, if I missed anything, please jump in. But I think that this is, the other thing, this year for the pilot program, we would work with, I would work with Ms. Forbes to find funding through grant funding in order to, make this work our first year. But we also, if it's become part of our SOP. So and then in the 22-23 school year, it would be a line item in the budget.
No, that was wonderful, Mr. Alfonso. Thank you. I just wanted to advise the committee that I do have some funds that could support this purpose. I would do a revision to refine it exactly to this purpose, but under an umbrella, I have funds for EL that could be aligned to this. So I have no doubt that that can be achieved for the work in the spring that Mr. Alfonso is desirous of initiating.
Any questions from the board members or the community members?
Yes, I was just curious for my background. So if you're not doing the AP exams are kind of a third party evaluation. These other, the apple and the stamp, or these are other third party assessments, or okay. And they are looking in, I know the AP does have the oral part. So they similarly, are they, online tests? What could be a little more background on how the assessments are done?
The assessments would be done virtually. And it's very, I'm the AP teacher as well, the Spanish AP teacher. And the things that we do in our classroom, which is speaking, listening, writing, reading, it's the same thing that they would be expected to do for this assessment. So it emulates pretty much what they're experiencing in the classroom. Both assessments, the Appel and the STAMP, both also address all 4 of those language learning skills. That's why at the beginning of the presentation, I said that students would have to perform in the target language and not just regurgitate like verbs and conjugations. They would actually have to be able to read and write and speak and listen and interpret what they're hearing and respond. I hope that was able to answer your question.
Yep, yep. I think it's a great idea. I think my husband happens to do the global language studies at Wesleyan, and so we are big advocates of language studies, and so I think this is fabulous.
I do want to add that one of the things, in speaking to Mr. Alfonso, so this is also an opportunity for our L students, knowing that our L population in the district has grown significantly, even from last year to this year. And we're seeing diverse languages coming to the district. And so this is an opportunity also for those students to be able to, what I always say, to demonstrate one of their superpowers, right? To be bilingual and biliterate, which is, as you know, is an advantage in a global economy, right? To know another language. And so at the same time is also something to actually for students to really feel proud about, right? Because this distinction does go on their transcripts when they apply to colleges and universities. So it's not just a seal on the diploma, it actually goes on their transcript as well, because it is the Connecticut seal of biliteracy from the state. So it is a state distinction.
I mean, I guess the thing that I would say is that goes back to the question of would they be getting this, how can they demonstrate it for colleges, which, usually are going to be happening in the fall of their senior year. And if it's not assessed until the end of their year, there's a bit of a disconnect there, but, I think that can be worked through, but figuring out how, because I do think it would be good to have it on their transcripts.
So in this beginning pilot year, I think Mr. Alfonso was just targeting the grade 12 students this year. But as he had mentioned earlier, they would want to have it available for both grade 11 and grade 12 so that they have the opportunity to take it earlier.
Yep.
And I just wanted to add to Dr. V's point that I have one daughter who got the seal, and another one who is going to go for it later in the year. And so the first one has definitely seen the advantage of that. And it's not just on your high school diploma or for college, but as itself, it's a standalone qualification. So it can be used for, future readiness for the workforce.
Right. You put it on your resume too.
Exactly.
It all sounds great, Alfonso. I was just curious about the acronym, that ACTFL. What is that standing for?
American Council of the Teaching of Foreign Languages.
Oh,
They are this national organization that helps to define what the standards are for world language instruction. And when you go to different districts, that's what you'll hear a lot of people talking about, the ACTFL standards, the can-do standards, because they set the bar for what the national standards are for world languages.
thank you. And then I was just curious, you had mentioned that you'd want to give students opportunity for practice. Is that additional cost to the $20 that you mentioned, or is that inclusive?
Well, that's why I said that I wanted to just do like a introduction, have this conversation with you all, and then come back in January with firmer numbers, a much clearer picture. But I needed to have the conversation presented to everyone. But that is something that I'm going to work on, because if we are going to work with one of these two assessment providers, that is something that I'm looking for. To not only to get a more bang for our buck, but also give students that that reassurance, that
Sure.
practice, so that they feel like they will be successful in this endeavor.
Right, yeah, and prepare them certainly.
Yes.
And I was just curious, other districts, is this pretty prevalent, or is this up and coming, or I'm not familiar with how many districts are doing this, I was just
So-
curious.
In 2017, the state of Connecticut set this forth. So it's been practiced in other districts, as Miss Forbes just shared. Her daughter in her
Mhm.
school district had it started already. I'm just glad that we have leaders who are visionaries, who understand that there are lots of things that our students could be benefiting from, and that we're
Mhm.
implementing those things now. So I appreciate the support from central office, the acting superintendent, the Office of Teaching and Learning, since he's got both hats. And as a department leader, it's really encouraging to have that kind of support.
Yeah, and to his point, it certainly is boosting a student, and if they have those qualifications already, why not take advantage of formalizing that? So
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
And also, it's celebrating and acknowledging
Mhm.
that our students who are EL in particular are also bringing with them knowledge and understanding of another language. Yes, they may be struggling in English because we live in America and this is the language we all use to communicate, but they do come with language skills and abilities that this helps to celebrate as well.
Correct, yeah.
It goes to the theory around assimilation versus enculturation, right?
Right.
Gone are the days around assimilation, English only, speak English only. It's about how you enculturate diverse languages and culture, because it's also about learning about each other's culture through language.
Mhm.
And so this is another area of opportunity. Just like Mr. Alfonso says, when you look at the components, it's just the conversational aspect of it and how to communicate effectively in the language, which has a cultural lens through it that allows the celebration.
Andres, one more question. Is this
Yes, ma'am.
comparable to the AP exam as far as the rigor of it?
So the AP exam is this structured, sort of, scaffolded way of learning and expanding, because all you're doing in AP classroom is you're coming in with some language skills, and my role as the teacher is not only stretch those skills, but also give you content knowledge that you will use when you're going into the exam. But speaking, writing, listening, and reading are becoming the most fundamental things that we as instructors in world language are doing in our classes. So students, whether it's French, Italian, Spanish, you will walk into a classroom and see students having opportunities to do interpretive tasks or presentational tasks or interpersonal tasks. So there's always some level of this work going on besides the exam. The exams are,
Right.
we're already doing that kind of work in the classroom. So this exam is just evaluating that and giving the students the opportunity to demonstrate, you know what, I got this.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sheila. Any other
Are there any
member?
more questions?
Just one more quick question, just in the way it's designed, when it comes back, you'll have kind of an infrastructure to kind of help the students get there, because,
Right.
it's,
And that's
they'll understand clearly what the steps are, or they'll have somebody that they can go to make sure they're understanding the steps. So there's a little level of guidance that comes with it. And I assume
Yes.
that will come with part of the basic proposal.
Yes, and also back to the assessment providers, what supports will they be able to provide to the students as they're practicing or preparing in order to take this assessment? That's going to be important to me to find out what is going to be available to them.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Alfonso, thank you so much for sharing with us the work that you have put forth. I'm looking forward to it. I feel really great about the fact that we're going to be celebrating those students who are EL learners. That's pretty powerful. It sort of flips the script at how we look at world language. And so I look forward to your presentation and January and getting this moved, because we are Middletown and we continue to be on the rise and on the move. So great work. Is there any other questions or anything else to add? Well, look at that. We have successfully completed the first meeting with me as your chair, and I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for showing up and doing great work. And if there is nothing more to add, I would like to call the meeting to an end. Do we have to vote on that? Madam Chair has left. Do we have to vote and take that? If not,
You know what? Just in case, let's just
yeah.
move to, we'll move to close.
all right. So I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting. The time is 5:56. May I get a
Seconded.
second
Second.
by Deborah? You all have